So in the Netherlands there's a chain of stores called Action, and you could call them dollar stores, but they're not really. They're sort of cheap stores. I just got back, my keys are actually still there, and I went there to get, first of all, an iron. I don't actually iron my clothes because I don't care, but I sometimes needed to fix a veneer. I bought a fleece blanket because I sometimes have guests over and they're cold, and then I have a blanket, even though it's not that cold in here. It's usually about 19 degrees Celsius. Some people are cold at that temperature. This was 79 cents. This was 9.95. That's all euros. You can add about 15-20% for dollars. A pan, 7.95. And a smaller pan, I think it was 4.95 or 5.95. So that's what I needed. But this is the kind of store where you end up buying more than you really need. So I got some socks, because the socks that I'm wearing now actually have holes in them. So I figured, you know what? I keep running into socks with holes. May as well get some socks. They're cheap and they actually don't feel that bad. Also, I got, for the same reason as the blanket, some fluffy slippers, size 40 for guests who are cold. And I got a big spoon because I'm always fighting it. This is very, very thin by the way, but still it's like 69 cents. I'm always fighting when I have to scoop pasta. So I think the socks were $2.99, these were $2.29. It's all very cheap. So when I walked into the store, there's always this electronics aisle that sells cables, like USB cables and such for phones, and I saw this. It's Phillips headphones, the 2000 series. Now I've had 2000 series of headphones before, the 2600, the 2200. They're all pretty good for the money. It's usually like 20-25 bucks. These were $9.95, and they look like a proper pair of over-ear headphones. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be mediocre, but yeah, it's super cheap Philips headphones. It comes with a headphone adapter from 3.5 to 6.3 millimeter jack, and they have 40mm drivers, and they are extremely light. There's some more details here: 20 to 20 kilohertz, 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, 85 dBs of efficiency, 16 ohms, 50 milliwatts. So I don't expect miracles from these. I expect them to be alright for $9.95, which is obviously very easy to do, but what if they're actually good? Let's give them a listen. So behind me, my Musical Fidelity X-Can headphone preamp is warming up, and while it does that, I'm gonna open these. I'm gonna be very careful with the box, because if they suck, I can still, I guess, sell them secondhand for even less than 10 euros, and then the box needs to be in good shape, he says, while completely mangling the box, because apparently it's glued together. Here we are. The headphones. They are in bubble wrap, which I've never seen before with headphones, and they look alright actually. There you go. Philips. These are probably made in China. They have the L&R on the inside, as you hope they would. Where are these made? Does it say so? Well, there's already Chinese writing at the bottom, which sort of gives it away. Made in China, yes, absolutely. TAH 2005. I guess the model number is TAH 2005. So I should actually mention that the real Philips headphones from this series are the SHP 2XXX. So these are sort of a knockoff series. You have the adjustment. It's a bit too light, but it doesn't feel flimsy. It feels alright. You have a pretty thin lead. It doesn't feel overly cheap, but it's definitely not a high quality cable. There's your obligatory cable binder. Yeah, it's a very thin cable, but anyway, plug, adapter, which feels quite solid to be honest. Nothing is rotating or no play anywhere. These are over the ears, but I have pretty big ears, so I feel like they may not quite go over ear. Let's see. Okay, they barely go over my ears, but they are over my ears. There's no denying that. So they do the job. And if you notice that I start speaking a bit louder, yes, they are actually quite. Yep, they are quite well noise isolated. So obviously no active noise cancelling, but at least there's some dampening. I do have a big head, so I need to adjust them a bit more, but that is possible. They do sound pretty hollow, so I'm expecting them to also sound hollow when it comes to the music. Nice detail. It says Philips right there on the plug. Pretty cute. So, while the camera figures its stuff out, I'm going to plug this into my headphone preamp, which may be a bit overqualified. And I'm going to find myself a source to listen to. I'm not going to make this the most extensive review. I'm just gonna tell you guys if they are worth the $10, because if they're not shit, they may be a nice pair of second headphones. I should say once more, if you have a big head, bit tight, not extremely, perfectly fine for an hour or two, but you don't want to wear these all day. The cushions are pretty hard, and you can feel that they're not straight, they're sort of pushed inwards because of the stretch. So a song I always like to start with is Milk and Honey by Holly Cook, because it sort of has everything. Let's see how that sounds. Well, you better like a lot of low end. Oh! There's a subwoofer joining in. Let me turn that off. That's a lot better. I was hearing the sub. Okay, so they have a bit too much low end, but it's not ridiculous. If you're used to the Marshall headphones that the Apple Store sold at some point, and some other cheap popular brand headphones like Dr. Dre Beats, you'll be used to this amount of low end. It's a lot, but it's not uncontrolled. It's not a horrible hollow mess. They're actually not that hollow sounding anyway. Mid-range, especially the lower mid-range, so the body of the voice is pretty good. We got all that. Higher mid-range is a bit lacking. And then there's the top highs, which are pretty present, but they don't have any detail. So you have a lot of highs, but I can't say they're great sounding, to be honest. Okay, so that's a pretty bright sounding recording. I'm going to go to something that sounds a bit warmer. I'm going to go to The Road to Ranglin by the band Vetiver. That actually is a lot nicer. So the highs are not great. I wish they had a little less, because whatever's in there... I'm used to cheap Phillips is not having a lot of highs, which is fine, because at least they're not annoying. Here they are a bit annoying. They are there, they are present, they are pretty in your face, but they have absolutely no transparency. Which can't be expected for €10, but I just wish they weren't there. Again, the body of the voice is pretty nice. The higher mid-range of the voice sounds like a cheap transistor radio, so it is there. It's very easy to follow the lyrics. But it's a bit tinny and hollowy, and it sounds very small, very small. That said, if I had to give them a verdict, I would say they're satisfactory. If I had to give my favorite headphones a 10 out of 10, which is a pair of Stax that I can't remember the model of, but they were really expensive. Best headphones I heard, 10 out of 10. Worst real-life brand headphones I heard are the cheapest Dr. Dre Beats, 0 out of 10. I would give these here a 5.5. They are really not horrible. They do everything you expect. They have the highs, the mids, and the lows. They lack a bit of transparency. Well, lack a lot of transparency, to be honest. And they definitely could do a bit better in a mid-range section. It's all a bit cheap sounding, but then they are incredibly cheap headphones. If you're just looking for headphones that give you everything, highs, mids, and lows, that are relatively comfortable, especially at the price, because these pads are alright, they're not horrible. They feel pretty well made, to be honest. They're not rattly or anything. I've had more expensive headphones that felt cheaper. Honestly, if you're just looking for a pair of headphones, these are not horrible. Would I recommend them? No, definitely not. You have the AKG K28, you have the AKG K121, you have the AKG K240, you have the cheap Audio-Technica headphones, you have the Sennheiser HD205, I believe it is, the Samsung SR850. They're all noticeably better than these, but they're also 25, 30, 35 euros. These are 10 euros, guys. This is the best pair of headphones you're going to find for 10 euros. This is even the best pair of headphones you're going to find under 20 euros. Maybe even 25. So if you're just looking for headphones and you don't want to be annoyed by the sound, you want to at least have the idea that you're not missing complete pieces of your frequency spectrum, these are alright. We're going to listen to Red Pepper Blues from the Art Pepper Meets the Rhythm section album, and I'm going to listen to my vinyl rip, 24-bit, 192 kilohertz. The rest so far was Spotify. Actually pretty good testing with this. Low end again, pretty good. It's really nice to follow the upright bass. The saxophone sounds alright except for the highest highs. They are a bit thin, a bit tinny, but the body is all there again. Where you can really notice the weakness of this pair of headphones is the snare drum. It's really aggressive, it's going like dang in your ears, it's like straight in your ears, it's a lot, but then there's no transparency, so you hear the dang, but you don't hear any of the top layers of the resonating of the drum. So that's really where they lack. You don't want to buy these to judge details and transparency. you can really buy them to just, in a cheap way, listen to music without missing too much. Yeah, okay. Yeah, same goes for the top ranges of the saxophone. They are pretty aggressive. So what I'm going to do now, because I'm pretty sure that is what these headphones are made for, plug it into a phone. While I have a phone with a headphone jack, although I think I just received a package with a USB-C to headphone adapter because my new phone is coming soon. This is my old OnePlus 6, which has been awesome, by the way. 10 out of 10 would recommend, but OnePlus is not what it once was. I'm gonna play Man in the Long Black Coat by Bob Dylan. Should be pretty annoying, but maybe these may surprise me. The low end of these is actually really good. If you have an equalizer on your phone and you just take away the highs and most of the mid-highs, these are great for low end. They're actually good. They're not hollow at all, which really surprises me. The harmonica is also better than I expected. So apparently the harmonica is not in the range of this pair of headphones. That's annoying. I'm expecting Dylan's voice, his overtones, to be pretty sharp on these. The S's of his voice and the overtones of his voice is very, very creaky in this record. He's like, rah, rah, rah. Those overtones, the slightly sharpish overtones of his voice are pretty aggressive. Not too annoying. The S's are pretty annoying, to be honest. One last test, Congo Man by Ernest Ranglin. Yep, again the snare, extremely harsh. They do seem to be getting a bit more transparent now that they are loosening up. I'm actually really impressed with the low end. It's never hollow, and this song tends to get really hollow. So, unless you want audio to be ridiculously loud, these are fine on the phone. It's loud enough to use in transport in a train, especially with how much they dampen the outside world. They do seem to match slightly better with a phone than with a proper phono preamp. They are slightly less harsh. Honestly, if you see someone with these, they're quite right to buy them. These are absolutely acceptable cans for 10 bucks. And yeah, if you're looking for a cheap pair of cans just to get you through the winter, maybe you don't want to get your own cans wet, you know, or whatever, or just keep your ears warm, because a proper pair of ear warmers is more expensive, and these are actually pretty warm. That's a downside in summer, I would say. Yeah, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. I've heard way worse cans for way more money, including some of the big brands. So I would highly recommend these if you're looking for something cheap. But if you have more money to spend a little extra. Buy a pair of AKG K52s. That's still my recommended cheapest good pair of headphones. And if you have a bit more to spend, buy a pair of AKG K240s. I think like 60, 70 bucks now. They're amazing headphones. But for 10 euros, that's probably also 10 bucks in the US. Technically it's 12. Awesome. Just awesome. They're really good for that amount of money. You get what you pay for and slightly more than that. So these are absolutely fine in my book. The Phillips 2000 series headphones, or to be exact, the TAH 2005. Probably made for the Asian market, but also sold in slightly dodgy cheap stores in other countries. Have a good day, guys.